Longtime Owensboro radio personality Joe Lowe is facing the toughest battle of his life, stage 4 cancer. As he undergoes treatment, Joe is urging everyone to seek treatment if and when you notice any early signs of trouble, stressing the importance of early detection. Joe Lowe is our guest today. When we return, we'll talk radio with Owensboro's Mr. Radio. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We're talking now with Joe Lowe, the legendary Joe Lowe, and I might mention here to our viewers that almost 25 years ago when I first arrived in Owensboro, one of the first persons I met was Joe, and the first guy I worked with was Joe. Remember those early morning hours we'd have on the radio?
Man, early morning on the radio, then they put us on TV, remember,
Yep.
in the camera in the studio. It was pretty interesting.
It was different. It was really, we're two of the radio people that go back quite a few years. We do share that. I started as a teenager, and I think you did too, didn't you?
Yeah, I started when I was 14 years old in Hardinsburg, worked a little bit in Louisville, and ended up down here with my beautiful wife, and we've been here 40 years.
Wow, 40 years. You talk about, and I'm not exaggerating when I say the legendary Joe Lowe. When you think of radio in Owensboro, everybody, I don't care what age you are, you think of radio, you think of Joe. Joe, you've seen the industry change drastically.
Well, sure.
It's changed with the music, of course, that's obvious, but technically it's changed so much. What would you say would be the biggest change you've seen since you were a 14-year-old kid on radio? How has the business changed since then?
The lack of training.
Amen.
You know, people start out, right now, I just want to be a DJ. The lack of news coverage, local news coverage, my gosh, that is so important, and somehow that fell by the wayside.
Well, when I came here, I didn't create this. It was already created that Joe and all of them had at WVJS. We had the TV news staff, plus we had staff from radio. And any event, I mean, if it snowed bad, we had everybody out.
Yep.
If it had a storm, we'd have everybody out. And Joe could get on the air and say, we're going to switch over here and talk to Linda. We're going to go over here and talk to them. And it was really big-time coverage of radio news for, a 10, 20-year period there, but it's about disappeared now.
Even now, when I listen to some of the old air checks, that is listening to what we recorded back then, and we did that to hopefully get better.
Oh, yeah.
And when I listen to some of those, and I listen to what we did, it rivals, I think, anything that you'd find in a larger market. Election coverage never happened without us. Storm coverage never happened without us.
We were excellent with that.
Creative people, my gosh, Kirkpatrick, Brian Jackson, Steve Cook, Gary Woodson. I'm mentioning some names, and I'm probably forgetting a few. But
Jim Parr was quite a newsman.
There's no question. Jim Parr was the consummate newsman.
The radio newsman. There are none like him anymore in any market.
There are none, and there's some decent people, but they have them doing so much. And we had actually a budget for news, for local news. That's gone by the wayside. There is no budget for local news. If we can do it, that's great. But, there are some good sides to that too, Jerry. We've seen some people that maybe wouldn't have risen to the top if they didn't have the opportunities that are available today. We've seen the shrinking of staffs.
No question about that.
But we've also seen the speed in which these people became better so much quicker because they had to.
Oh, they had to do a lot of different things, and they had to do it with no help.
I think to clean it up, we can say poop or get off the pot.
That pretty much was what it was. There was no doubt about that. Now, when we were first on the air, you couldn't have said that.
No,
that's one thing that has changed a little bit.
When we were first on the air, there's a lot of things you couldn't have said, and I still tell kids, if you don't want to say it in front of mom or your grandmother, don't say it. It's not an option.
What's the biggest goof you ever made on the air? Something you said that you would want to take back. You say, oops, I just said that.
I think I closed the city schools one time. That was not a good thing.
Accidentally or on purpose?
Accidentally.
How did that happen?
I just miss, somebody called me and I thought it was some, not even getting into it. That
They didn't give the code or anything.
That gave, we didn't have a code back
Okay,
then.
all right.
You just thought you knew everybody. So that was probably the biggest thing in Owensboro.
Joe Lowe closes. No wonder you became a hero with the kids. You closed all the schools, and they were saying maybe he'll do that again.
Maybe. just
Okay,
maybe.
technically, what's the biggest change you've seen?
Doing it all yourself. Doing it all yourself.
You don't have an audio man. You don't have.
We don't have any of
engineer or
that
anything.
stuff, but we do have computers, and computers came into the studio. There are no records anymore. Talk radio has evolved to where it's becoming #1 right now, and I was very happy to be a part of that.
And you have always maintained, and especially in the last 10, 12 years, a combination of talk and music.
Yes.
And that's a combination you don't hear anywhere else. You hear it on the Joe Lowe Show. Joe, you're faced with, you've had many challenges in your life, going through in this business. And I've seen a lot of the challenges you took on and succeeded. But right now you're going through the biggest challenge in your life. Something, nobody's prepared for. I don't care who you are. And do you have any message for the people that can even imagine what you're going through right now?
Well, it's not the biggest challenge in my life as much as it is the biggest challenge in my family's life. And with stage 4 cancer in the esophagus and the liver and the stomach, when you see that on a CAT scan, you go, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Then I got to thinking, and quite frankly, where your wife Meg is sitting right now, Jessica Bays was here a couple of weeks ago. John and Jess used to own the Executive Inn, and they came to see me. And I told her my mission, my new mission, which is to get people, #1, to be aware that if you have something wrong, I don't care if it's something wrong with the way you're eating, something wrong with the way you're feeling or whatever, get checked out. Do it early, because stage 1 is a whole lot easier to cure than stage 4. And stage 4 can kill you pretty quick. The others, you have a real good shot at coming back from. #2, and I've told this story before, and I saw it again today. My wife saw it. A lady leaving the cancer center by herself.
Oh. Oh, my.
She had gone through chemo. She was waiting for the Grits bus. It was taking her home. To what?
To an empty home, on an
To an
empty
empty
bus, or sitting by herself on the bus.
I've got such a support group here. Hundreds of people in this community, maybe thousands, have sent me good wishes and are praying for me around the country. What about that poor lady? Folks, we call ourselves a Judeo-Christian community. It's time we forget about building the new monuments. I think they're great, but I think it's time that we get back to what we should be doing, what we're mandated to do by God, which is take care of each other. And if you have an hour or 2 or 3, it's easy to throw money at a problem. Kathy and I have done that for years. You need some money? Jerry comes to me and says, hey, I'm doing this cause, here's a check, blah, blah, blah. It's a whole lot harder to give of your time to be with somebody who has nobody. That's the message. It's very simple, Jerry.
Okay. And I have a hunch, I know this guy. This guy's been praying for that gal that had to ride the bus by herself when she goes to the center.
You know, one other thing I learned through all this, there's a little book I read every day, and it's full of scripture, and it's full of some enlightening things about getting well. And yeah, I believe me, I pray for myself. Kathy heard me in the middle of the night last night. But the greatest gift we can give is to pray for somebody else. Care about the other people in your life. Care about the other people who aren't in your life. Embrace them. Bring them in. And it's not just cancer. There's a ream of other things out there There's people sitting in nursing homes right now that have nobody to come see them. How sad is that? Let's not let that happen in Owensboro.